Good morning students, I welcome you all for the online class of economics. Today we will be continuing with the same topic which we had completed in the live class. Has the 3 points which I had explained about the foreign trade on the eve of independence. The last point which is highlighting over there, that is surplus was used to pay the import of invisible items. First of all, I want to tell you people what was the invisible item. The item which was not shown in the list of the constitution. That time India were not having their own government, and the item which were listed as the legal and illegal, in that list that item name was not there. So that, or some of the, you can say there, that item were not shown as the goods. So definitely if they are not shown as a goods, they people don't have to pay for that. They were just as a raw material taken or extracted from the nature. So that way there were some trade which was done by the British time. Surplus was used to pay the import of what thing, invisible item, means India were not importing such good, but still India have to pay for that goods which were considered as invisible items. Okay, now comes demographic condition on the eve of independence. When we take demographic condition on the eve of independence, it shows what all development our country geographically faced during the time of British, or undeveloped what the situation of India was during the British time or during the independence time. Various details about the population of India were collected through census. Census is a way, what is census? We learnt in the last year, statistics. Census is a way of estimating the population or big survey that can be possible of the country per person, that can be known as census. Census is a way of estimating the data or record per person of the whole nation together. It is known as census. Like population of country, if we want to know, it will be done by census method. Okay, census is a method in which physically a person go from door to door and make a survey of the data and collect the data, and the survey, and then the study is made on the basis of that survey. That is known as census. Okay, the first official census was conducted in which year? In the year 1881. It means before our independence. The year 1921 is described as the year of Great Divide. From this year onwards, population has been growing continuously and rapidly. The population grew at a rate of 1.2% up to the year 1951. The demographic condition on the eve of independence was as follows. Very first is high birth rate and death rate. You can see there what was the condition, that Indian were having the high birth rate and death rate. High birth rate and death rate are treated as index of backwardness of a country. Definitely student, if the growth rate is also at a very high rate and the death rate is also a very high rate, it is means no control over the population of any country. Then what will happen? If there is no control over that, then it will affect to our economic status also, because it is a situation we have to study about this particular problems. High birth rate and death rate. High birth rate can increase the population unnecessary, and high death rate says that our country is facing many type of problem, by because of that death rate is there in our country. High birth rate and high death rate are treated as index of backwardness of a country. Okay, both birth rate and death rate were very high at 48 and 40 per thousand of persons respectively. Now you can see our condition, our country during this pandemic situation, very high death rate was there. Yes, definitely this death rate is a population for our country. For the problem, it is a problem for our nation, because we don't have any control over this. We cannot make the life of the people, and people's life and people's need for development of the nation is needed. So because of that, a control must be there, not only in the birth rate but also over the death rate. Next, high infant mortality rate. High infant means those child who are below the age of 1 year, and basically that is just because they were not having nutritional diet at the time of their birth, before the birth or after the birth. Because of that reason, their death rate was also very high. People were not only economically but emotionally weak. In that situation, they cannot think of the formation of income and the economy. So that was the reason. That is also a problem that our country was facing. It refers to death rate of children below the age of 1 year. It was very high that time. It was 18 per thousand live birth. Low life expectancy. This is another problem of the economy. Low life expectancy, the people mainly up to the age of 32 were thinking to survive, because Britisher time that was such a tough situation. People were malnutritional. They don't want to work. If they work also, they have to be a slave of the Britisher and the people who were rich of our country, richest of our country. Under them they have to work, even paying so much tax, even paying so much money, what they were getting from the hard work, they were not getting the food to eat. So that was a situation that makes low life expectancy, and that was the condition of our country. Life expectancy means the number of years that a newborn child on an average is expected to live. It was as low as 32 years. Mass illiteracy. Mass illiteracy means lakhs and lakhs of people, major population, you can say major population of our country was illiterate. They were not having anything to by source of that they can make learning at schools and colleges. So that indicated mass illiteracy of our nation. Mass illiteracy among the people of a country is taken as an indicator of its poverty and backwardness. The population census of 1941 was the last census under the British rule, estimated the literacy rate at 17%. This means that 83% of the total population was illiterate. Next comes low standard of living. When we talk about low standard of living, first of all, before explaining this point, even the living was very difficult. How could we think about standard of living? The people were having lots of problem. They cannot able to meet the basic need of the life, that is a food, shelter and clothes. So how could they think about standard of living? Definitely this point will be low only during the independence or before the independence. At the time of independence, people used to spend between 80 to 90% of their income on basic necessities, that is on food, clothing and housing. Even then, people did not get adequate quantity of food or clothing or housing, and millions of people starved. Starved means they were not they were deployed. They were not having these needs also. Went naked and lived in huts or in the open. Moreover, some parts of India came under severe famine conditions. Natural thing was also not helping the country to overcome from this economic problem. So many disasters were there by the nature, like famine situation, drought situation, flood was there. Either some of the places were totally drought. From years and years they were not seen any water. Totally cannot do they cannot do any type of agriculture work over the land. So that was a situation of our country. These were the problem faced by the peoples of our country before the independence and after the independence also many years. Moreover, some parts of India came under severe famine condition. The famines were so severe that millions died. Like now we are facing this type of situations. One of the worst famines in India was the Bengal famine of 1943, where 3 million people died. Now it is the time when you people are seeing, because of this type of disease, what we are facing, so many income of our country is just to save the life of the people, and also to make the life of the people after this pandemic. So this situation is one of the example which were many times faced by the Indians before the independence and also after the independence. Okay, so these are the things why this is a problem for the economic development of our nation. Next is infrastructure on the eve of independence. Now comes infrastructure. What do you mean by infrastructure, student? Infrastructure means the roads, transportation, then the advertisement, communication which is needed to correlate the people from one place to another. Okay, so what was the development of that at the time of independence? Infrastructure comprises of such industries which help in the growth of other industries. Example, transport, electricity, communication, banking, etc. During the British rule, some basic infrastructure was developed in the form of railways, water transport, ports, post and telegraph, etc. However, the real intention behind this development was to serve their own colonial interests. It is clear from the following points. Railway. British rulers introduced railways in India in 1850 and Indian railways began their operation in 1853. It was considered as one of the most important contribution of British rulers in India. You can see there how the British rulers introduced India with the railways, and why was it introduced, that also you can come to know, not for Indians but for the mere transport of goods and people from one place to another for the British economy, not for Indian economy. Railways positively affected the Indian economy in the following ways. There was cheap and rapid movement of people from one place to another place. It broke geographical and cultural barriers. It promoted national unity among other nations. It increased commercialization of Indian agriculture. Easily the Britishers can trade from one country to another country, from one part of the country to another part of the country through the way of railways. Now they were become much more easier. This favorably affected the self-sufficiency of Indian village economy. Indian villages have to face many problems after the railways introduced in our country. Their agricultural product was easily commercialized to other parts of the countries, and they were not getting any income for the same. The volume of India's export trade expanded substantially, although its benefit did not accrue much to the Indian people, but it accrued to the foreigners. It increased the income of the foreigners. India's industrial development example, cotton textile industries in Bombay, jute industry in Kolkata, tea plantation in Assam and Bengal was due to the development of expansion of railways. Though construction of railways benefited the Indian economy in many ways, but the main motive of British rulers behind constructing railways were to have effective control and administration over the vast Indian territory. पूरी इंडिया पे रूल करने के लिए बहुत easy हो गया था through the way of railways. For this, Britishers linked important administrative and military centers through railway lines to earn profit through foreign trade. For this, they linked railways with major ports and marketing center or mandis to create an opportunity for profitable investment of British funds in India. Now comes the road student. When we talk about the roads, what was the development, infrastructure development of the road at the time of independence? The roads were built primarily to mobilize army within India. It means no use for Indians. It was just for the British army to move easily from one place to another place. If it is not constructed, they have to make the route. They have to remember the route. They have to make some graph of that route. But now it become easy when the roads were developed by the Britisher to connect the place from one place to another, and carrying out raw materials to the nearest railway station or to the port to send it to Britain. There was acute shortage of all weather metals. Roads in the village side, because of this rural people suffered during natural calamities, famines, etc. Water transport and air transport, this was also developed by the Britisher, but no use of Indians. Britisher took measures for developing the water transport and air transport so that their work will become much more easier after the road and the railways. Their development was far from satisfaction. Indian shipping companies had to face severe competition from foreign shipping companies. The main purpose behind their development was to serve British colonial interests. Communication. Modern postal system started in India in 1837. The telecommunication services were introduced in India. The first telegraphy line was opened in 1857. Occupational structure on the eve of independence. When we come to the occupational structure on the eve of independence, it will help us to know what was the other occupation beside the agriculture and the industry set up in our country and in which people can indulge. Occupational structure means the distribution of workforce among different sectors of an economy. The state of occupational structure on the eve of independence was as follows. Let us see. This point itself will clear us. Predominance of agricultural sector, we already learned. The agriculture sector was totally dominated by the Britishers. The agriculture sector accounted for the largest share of workforce, which was 72%. The manufacturing and service sector accounted for 10% and 18% respectively. Growing regional variations. There was growing regional variation in the state of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra and West Bengal. The dependence of the workforce on the agricultural sector declined. On the other hand, there was increase in the share of workforce in the agricultural sector in the state of Orissa, Rajasthan and Punjab, because that states were much more rich in important export goods. Thus, India's occupational structure was static and unbalanced. No development of our Indians and our India. Conclusion of the chapter. Thus, at the time of independence in 1947, India was a poor and underdeveloped country. I think you concluded itself from the learning of this chapter. If you learned properly, that you came to know India's development was zero. At that time, agriculture was in a poor condition. Mineral resources was not fully utilized. There were only a few industries and many of the cottage and small scale industry had declined under the British rule. Millions of people were unemployed. Birth rate and death rate was very high rate. Infant mortality was very high. The industries were underdeveloped and they were deindustrialized. Unbalanced development of industries was there. The industry, the things which they require, that was not provided by the Britisher, and even if they try to get it, Britisher put hurdles so that they cannot gain it. When we talk about the foreign trade, over that also Britishers' rule was there. They were not allowing us to make export of such things which can make Indian income to be done. So the per capita income of Indians was one of the lowest in the world, indicating that the average Indian was extremely poor and could not afford even the basic necessities of life. For instance, the staple food of average Indian consisted of rice, wheat and millets like jawar and bajra. At Rajasthan places that was needed. So most Indians could not afford to buy nutritious and balanced diet. The vast majority of people in India led a miserable life. India was a rich country occupied by poor people. In conclusion, the state of India economy can be summed up in the words of Bethlehem as follows: little industrialization, low agricultural output, low figure of national income and per capita income, very sluggish economic progress, considerable unemployment and underemployment. These are some of the main characteristics of India's social economic situation just after independence. The status of Indian economy was poor, stagnant and backward. You can say it was totally a zero, a big zero for our country after getting the independence also, because from the beginning only the condition of our country was very bad. So that was the first chapter of IED. In the next class, I will be with the second chapter of IED. Before that, be prepared with the notes of this chapter. This is the very smallest chapter of the IED book. I hope you have understood. See here student, this is the way how could we learn the IED. If you will think it is a theoretical book and the last you will mug up the things if the board exams, if the exam will be there or will not be there, there is no doubt the exam will not be there. There will be the exam. It is a confirmed thing that exam will be there. New policy came by the CBSE and according to that, people have to sit for the exam anyhow and they will get the marks. And this time what with the way they had decided, it needs your hard work. So because of that, don't think that you will be learning at the last moment, because now the term exams will be there. So first that you have to learn the exams syllabus properly, which is already designed by the CBSE. We will give you the details in the further classes. Before that only I am making you pre-ready for the things, so that in future after learning the new policy you don't have to make yourself ready. From the beginning you will be get ready for the things what you have to learn in the whole session. So thank you for today's class. Have a nice day. We will be with the new chapter. Any doubt you can ask in the live class. We will be having the new chapter, that is Indian economic policy from 1950 to 1990. What policy India has made and how much it progressed. And after 1990 you learned in the business studies, new economic policy came 1991. It was need. अब वो new economic policy 1991 क्यों आया होगा, क्या drawbacks थे जिसके कारण new NEP बना 1991, that you will be learning from the next chapter. Thank you for today's class. Have a nice day.